Terence Stamp, the man who once made the world kneel before Zod. An actor of unmatched presence. A heartthrob of the 1960s. A risk-taker who transformed himself into one of cinema's most unexpected cultural icons. But what most people don't know is that Stamp's real life was just as dramatic as any of his roles. From the heights of superstardom to years of obscurity, from spiritual pilgrimages to shocking comebacks, his journey was filled with triumph, heartbreak, and haunting solitude. And in his final days, he left behind mysteries that fans are still piecing together. Welcome to Celebrity Watchline, your source for scandals, viral moments, and pop culture deep dives. Subscribe so you don't miss out. It was 1962. Hollywood was searching for the next great leading man. Then came a young Brit with piercing blue eyes and raw intensity, Terence Stamp. His debut in Billy Budd was nothing short of extraordinary. Directed by Peter Ustinov, Stamp's performance as the angelic sailor brought him an Academy Award nomination, almost unheard of for a first film. He won a Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer and was instantly hailed as a star. The industry whispered, "This could be the next Brando." And for a time, it seemed true. But what no one could imagine was that this meteoric rise would soon give way to one of the most shocking disappearances in Hollywood history. By the mid-1960s, Terence Stamp wasn't just an actor, he was a cultural icon. He starred in The Collector, 1965, a chilling psychological thriller, and Modesty Blaze, 1966, a stylish spy romp. His face was everywhere, on magazine covers, in fashion spreads, arm-in-arm with supermodel Jean Shrimpton. He dated Julie Christie, mingled with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and became a poster boy for swinging London. But the glamour was only half the story. Stamp later admitted that while the world saw him as the ultimate leading man, he felt hollow inside. He said fame had turned him into a mannequin of himself, an image, not a person. And soon, that inner emptiness began to bleed into his career. Scripts slowed down. Hollywood's spotlight shifted to others. By the late 1960s, the actor who seemed destined for greatness was fading into obscurity. While most stars fought to stay relevant, Terence Stamp chose another path. He vanished. In the 1970s, Stamp traveled across India and the East, immersing himself in spirituality and meditation. He studied with gurus, lived simply, and sought answers far from the cameras. He later wrote about this period, describing it as both healing and isolating. He had traded fame for peace, but peace came at a cost. Hollywood moved on. New stars rose. And Terence Stamp's name became a fading memory. Friends described him as almost unrecognizable, not the polished actor, but a man wandering barefoot through villages, chasing enlightenment. But destiny wasn't finished with him. In 1978, a role appeared that would not just bring him back, it would cement him in pop culture forever. When Superman hit theaters in 1978, audiences met a villain unlike any they had seen before, General Zod, played by Terence Stamp. Tall, commanding, elegant, and terrifying, Stamp didn't just act the part. He owned it. His delivery of 3 words, "Kneel before Zod," became a cinematic legend. Fans were mesmerized. Stamp had gone from forgotten star to immortal villain in one role. But here's the secret. Stamp admitted that while audiences saw Zod's power, inside he felt fragile. After years of obscurity, he feared he wasn't strong enough to return. Yet that vulnerability gave Zod his depth, a villain who was both regal and broken. The success was massive. But there was a catch. General Zod became so iconic that it cast a shadow over everything else. Stamp worried he'd forever be remembered as only Zod. And so, he made a bold decision that would shock Hollywood again. In 1994, at age 56, Terence Stamp reinvented himself. He took on the role of Bernadette Bassinger, a transgender woman, in The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It was a risk few leading men of his generation would have dared to take. But Stamp wasn't afraid. The result? Magic. Bernadette was sharp, funny, vulnerable, and deeply human. Critics hailed it as one of Stamp's greatest performances. For the LGBTQ+ community, it was groundbreaking representation. Stamp later confessed, "Playing Bernadette saved me. It gave me back my heart. Once again, he had shattered expectations." The man who once demanded the world kneel had now won its heart. Just 5 years later, in 1999, Stamp delivered what many consider his career-defining role, Wilson, in Steven Soderbergh's The Limey. As an aging ex-con seeking revenge for his daughter's death, Stamp was raw, fiery, and unforgettable. Critics raved. Audiences rediscovered him. And a whole new generation realized this wasn't just Zod, this was one of Britain's greatest actors. From there, roles kept coming. He played Supreme Chancellor Valorum in Star Wars, The Phantom Menace. He starred in Wall Street, Young Guns, The Adjustment Bureau, Valkyrie, The Haunted Mansion, and finally, in Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho in 2021. Even in his 80s, Stamp could still dominate a screen with a single look. But what about his private life? What did the world not see? Off-screen, Stamp lived a life as complex as his characters. He wrote memoirs like Stamp Album and Rare Stamps, filled with reflections on fame, spirituality, and self-discovery. He even published a cookbook, blending his love of food with his passion for healthy living. Gamers knew his voice too. He gave chilling performances as Mankar Cameron in The Elder Scrolls IV, Oblivion, and the Prophet of Truth in Halo 3. But in interviews, Stamp admitted he lived simply. No Hollywood mansions. No entourage. He meditated daily, often lived alone, and kept much of his private life guarded. For all his fame, he remained a mystery. In his later years, Stamp's public appearances became rare. Fans noticed his frailty, whispers grew about his health, but he never confirmed anything. He guarded his final chapter the way he lived most of his life, privately, with dignity. On August 17, 2025, his family confirmed his death at the age of 87. In their statement, they said, "He leaves behind an extraordinary body of work, both as an actor and as a writer, that will continue to touch and inspire people for years to come." The tributes poured in. Fans remembered Zod. Others remembered Bernadette. But the truth? Terence Stamp was all of it, the heartthrob, the villain, the survivor, the seeker. He was a man who lived many lives. And in the end, he left us with something greater than roles. He left us with a legacy of reinvention, courage, and artistry that will never fade. Thanks for watching Celebrity Watchline. See you in the next one.